Great. Hey, let's bring in Michelle Malkin now. There's a lot to discuss, Michelle, in the news, from Senator Rand Paul's marathon to dinner for 21 at the Jefferson. But first things first, Senator Rand Paul won a lot of respect, didn't he?
He sure did. It was riveting TV all through the day and night last night. In fact, Filibuster and Stand with Rand were hashtags on Twitter that were trending not just in the U.S. but worldwide. Here's the Republican Party that has been puzzling about its tarnished brand and trying to figure out a way to reach out to non-traditional constituencies. Well, it happened last night as a result of this incredible show, not just from Rand Paul, but he had backup support from other Tea Party senators, primarily Ted Cruz and then Marco Rubio. And then sometime in the midnight hour, Mitch McConnell finally wandered on to provide support for his fellow Kentuckian.
Sure.
And even if there are internal disagreements among Republicans and conservatives about the actual policy and the extent of what presidential authority should be in wartime, the fact that you had a singular figure grab the platform, the spotlight, seize the narrative, and force a very uncomfortable issue in front of the White House and the world, that's the kind of leadership that a lot of conservatives have been looking for sure.
And it was interesting because officially Washington, D.C. shut down, because of the snowstorm that never was. And yet, here's this guy from Kentucky, he went to Washington to stand for something, and he wound up standing there talking for 13 hours because he feels, and I completely agree with him, and well, it's against the Constitution to do what this administration does, and would do hypothetically, and that is you cannot target an American on American soil. And that's why all these politicians, some Democrats along with Republicans, Michelle, stood up with Stan last night. Watch.
I rise today to begin to filibuster John Brennan's nomination for the CIA. I will speak until I can no longer speak.
I'd like to ask your reactions to the testimony that Attorney General...
Senator from Kansas, without yielding the floor if I can.
Most Americans would find it repulsive.
Mr. President, at this time I would entertain a question without yielding the floor from the Senator from Oregon.
Instance of an extraordinary threat to our country.
Now I would yield without yielding the floor for another question.
And this will probably be my last question. Before I get to it, let me just say that all the other senators that are, and I know some.
I have no problem. People want to talk for a long time. It's no problem. I've done it a time or two in my days.
Mr. President, I'd like to thank the senator from Texas for coming to the floor and cheering me up. I was getting kind of tired, and I appreciate bringing news from the outside world. We don't want to have a standard where someone who we think might be a terrorist or we think might be engaged in something who's in a restaurant eating dinner would be killed.
And I think that's something every member of this body should care about. It's not a Republican question, not a conservative question.
I've told them that I will remove myself from the blockage of John Brennan's nomination as soon as we get some clarification from the White House. I'm still absolutely, we're not going to be killing Americans not in a combat situation, that we will obey the Constitution, that the Fifth Amendment does apply to all Americans, and there aren't exceptions. But I thank you very much for the forbearance, and I yield the floor.
And
well, that was last night.
Hours.
Yeah, that was almost 1 a.m. last night. So, Michelle, what do you think about this poll? It's a little broad in the questioning. Should the president have authority to use drones to kill Americans on U.S. soil? 63% say no, 32% say yes. But that, I guess you could parse out that question. If they're a known terrorist or, does that change it for you at all?
Yeah, this is an incredibly complex issue.
No doubt.
Gretchen. And the unfortunate reality is that there was so little debate because these Democrats have been so scared out of their pants to confront the issue because it's a loser for Obama and his narrative. Dick Durbin crept up onto the fore briefly to try and get clarity about some very basic policy issues about non-combatant versus combatant, and imminent threat is really what's important here. And if you added that wording to the question. It would be interesting to see
exactly
what the change is in popular opinion on this. Because as many Republicans who actually support a wide discretion during the war on terror under Bush have pointed out, I mean, Vice President Cheney had put orders in to shoot down Flight 93, which had a couple of hundred American citizens on board. And Rand Paul actually answered a question from Dick Durbin. These are the kind of questions that the White House needs to be answering. But as we pointed out on Twitchy last night, what was he doing? The White House and Obama were posting pictures of snow day, frolicking around, you know, in all of the fluffy snow while the Senate Republicans were hanging up the floor.